Hello and welcome to Narc Live on Wednesday the 31st of August 2022, coming to you live from Norfolk on the east coast of England with Tammy M0TC.
Hello.
And me, David G7URP. Great to see you on tonight's show. We get the lowdown on ham radio Deluxe software with company CEO Mike WA9PIE. SSB Field Day is on this weekend, this Saturday and Sunday. And we find out what on earth this is. Just got time to enter if you haven't already done so on email if you know what that is. But first, I'm afraid I have to start with some very sad news. Tony M0TDK wrote to me this afternoon to say that his good friend John Elsden, G4RLS, died today after a long fight with illness. It was John who introduced Tony to CW and contesting, and they had many happy times using CW together. The last time they entered NFD together was in 2015, when they contested as G3JRM/P from Tony's boat, whilst moored at Somerleyton on the Waveney. They didn't do very well, as usual, but they had a lot of fun. These pictures are of John on that occasion from the boat. Tony says that he'll miss him, as will all who knew him. Our sympathies and thoughts to all John's family and friends, including fellow members of the PIE and District Amateur Radio Club in Lowestoft, of which John was a member. John Elsden, G4RLS, sadly silent key. Now, this weekend, as I mentioned at the beginning, is SSB Field Day for many clubs up and down the land. It's this weekend, the 3rd and 4th of September, and we're putting on a station very near here, actually, where we're working from here. It's behind DCP and Bow Street, Great Ellingham, near Attleborough. Now, I know lots of you will know where this is, because it's where we have our traditional radioactive event every year, but of course some of you won't. So this is a slide we've put together with some of the information that you need. The location's at the very top. And it's in a field just behind DCP Micro, but you can park in DCP Micro or you can take your car to the field, weather permitting. We are expecting some rain on Saturday, so just be sensible about taking a car on that field. If you can do so, maybe it's best to park at DCP, the car park. The setup of the tower will be on Friday afternoon from around 2 PM, and you're welcome to come and help. Plus also, we'll be putting up some tents probably as well on Friday, because we're expecting rain on Saturday, but we'll also be continuing the setup from Saturday from around 9:30. The contest is on from 2 o'clock BST, British Summer Time, on Saturday until 2 o'clock on Sunday, and as it's SSB voice, most people can do it, and of course you'll be welcome. Please bring your own fold-up chair and refreshments, although if you're there early on Sunday, I'll make some bacon rolls for those who are there. Very first thing though. Any queries or questions, please contact Malcolm, Andy, Chris or me, and the contact details for all of us is on the club website. There's the information there. Hope to see some of you there. Now, after the weekend, on Monday, we've got the new series of Tonight at 8 webinars, which Tammy and I host for the RSGB. And kicking off the series is Mike Richards, G4WNC, who introduces you to the best data modes for keyboard QSOs. In addition to explaining their operation and configuration, Mike will run through some operating techniques to take the strain out of keyboard QSOs. For more information on this webinar and others, go to rsgb.org/webinars. It's on the screen there for you now. That's live at 8 o'clock on Monday. Now, a couple of weekends ago, you may know if you came to the school last week when the club met, we had GB0HL participating in the International Lighthouse Weekend. The GB0HL station was a great success. We made 217 contacts using CW and SSB and covering 27 countries, including 12 contacts with other lighthouses or lightships, plus over 50 contacts made on 2 meters by Selim M0XTA on the Saturday only. Thanks very much to the Haysborough Lighthouse Committee for allowing us to do this. We've also sent a donation to the Lighthouse. And thanks, of course, to all those members who helped set up, operate and pack up, and especially to Malcolm G3PDH who coordinated the event. Now, in addition to these pictures, there's another picture appeared from Paul G3VPT. He said that on the Saturday I took Linda out for a drive and she thought she'd like to go to the lighthouse. Really? So I don't know if that's true or not. Anyway, she sat in the car with a newspaper and a book. But Malcolm, John, Stuart and Jock were on the ground floor at the time I came, and I climbed to the top to see Selim on VHF Hard Work when we've lived in a bungalow for 50 years, he says. I don't know if that's before or after. Looking at the way Paul's walking, I think it's probably after. That is a very tall thing, those lighthouses. If you haven't been in one, it's great. Anyway, thanks again to everybody involved, and thanks, Paul, for that story at the end as well. Now, also, just this last weekend, on Sunday, we had our Sunday friendly fox hunt. It's an extra fox hunt that we put on because so many people were keen to do it, and while the weather was good, the foxes thought they'd offer to do it. There were 5 teams entered, and here they are, pictures of each one. There's Wrong Direction, their name, not mine. Meandering. Destruction Crew. Sonny and Paul there. The Bitten, which was Steve and his wife Debbie on the right there. This is their first time ever doing a fox hunt, and that's M1 TIM on the left there. He didn't take part, he didn't quite get his thing finished in time, his DF100. And also Red Wolf, that was the other team. There we are, that's Nev and David. They all set off at 2 o'clock from Thorpe Recreation Ground to try and locate the fox somewhere in Norfolk. Team Bitten was made up, as I said, of Steve and his wife Debbie. Their very first time, that's why I'm giving a special mention from making a DF100. Well, Team Meandering with Colin M0GMK and wife Jenny found the fox at 3:10 p.m. and in fact were the only team who managed to find the fox by 4 p.m. So they're the winners, having located it in 12.1 miles, which was really good going because even by the most direct route it was 9.8 miles, so pretty good going there. Foxes Bob and Mike were in Broadland Country Park in one of the car parks just the other side of Horsford. Now, while we're showing this picture of the map, this is actually Colin's map, which he showed people who arrived later at the fox, because it's interesting, they only used a portable Yagi. Nothing, not even as sophisticated as a DF100, let alone a Doppler system. They just located it, and there are those 3 pencil lines that you can see. Those 3 lines are which he drew, and one of them goes right through, right at the end, the middle line goes right the way through. There are these 3 bearings. So it just shows you that you don't have to have the most sophisticated equipment to do this. You can't get more simple, really, than a directional antenna like a Yagi. But you do need a few map skills, and of course I think everybody would agree, quite a bit of luck as well. Thanks to everybody who took part, and to the foxes, of course. And we'll get a fox hunting equipment test evening built into the programme for the spring with several people who've bought DF100s recently to make, and other radios as well. And if there's enough demand, we'll certainly be happy to arrange that. Finally, from my news, from you, Peter M0VRA wrote to us and suggested that we remind everybody that the ICNIRP regulations, which we've talked about a lot on this programme, will also apply to the HF bands from this November. Now, there's lots more information on the RSGB website than there was before. If you go to this, rsgb.org/EMF, and that's got now calculations for some of the more common HF antennas, and the online calculator will let you work those out. It's all tested as well, by the way, from exams from tomorrow, from September. All the exams, there will be questions on ICNIRP as well. They've built that into the formula. And finally, on a lighter note, Peter also sent us these pictures of birds sunbathing. That is what, I mean, I thought at first he was distressed, but lovely picture, isn't it?
It's funny to see, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're just laying flat out. And another one I think we've got. Oh, wrong one, sorry.
I'm there, press the wrong button.
There we are.
Lovely, aren't they? They do look in distress, funny.
They do, but anyway, that's what they were doing apparently. That's the news from you. Thank you very much. Tammy, over to you for Little People.
Little People, yeah, we've got a little retro Little People this week again this week. So here you go, a little bit of weightlifting.
Oh, yes.
So you like that?
Oh, I like it. Yeah, and good old 706 phones, I think they call them, the classic old telephone from my era.
Aren't they just called da 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 da?
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's great.
Is that like an early form of Morse code?
No, don't even go there. Don't even go there. I don't think that's a good idea. Anyway, as we always say, thanks to those guys at miniature-calendar.com. There's a new picture like this every day, and Tammy picks one out for us each week. That's really good, isn't it? Simple but very effective. Thank you. So what have you been doing? Keep us in touch. We haven't had much news from you, really. I know it's not as easy when we don't meet every week, but there's still things like Paul showed and Peter showed as well that you can send us pictures. By the way, I'll be telling you a bit later, but we are meeting next week as well here online as well. So we've got time to get. You've got time to get some stories, some information, some pictures, or something you want us to promote or something like that to us. Send it to the usual address, radio@dcpmicro.com. But now it's competition time before we meet our guest this evening, and it's that what on earth is this, and what did you think this was? Some interesting answers. Any online, Tammy?
I haven't seen any actually, no.
Okay.
No, I think we're just on here. Yeah, none online.
All right. Well, here we go. These are the answers that we got. These are the entries that we got from Steve G3EVA. He says, "Is it a lid opener?" I get that. Yeah.
Bruce G4KZT, I think this week's What on Earth is it? Is a device to seal a drink can, keeping the contents fresh and fizzy and the wasps out.
Okay, Paul Nev M0NFY says, I think the object this week may be a thingy to assist removing a jam jar or similar lids for us old and decrepit folk, he says.
Paul G4ZBA, I think this is a thing for resealing a can of drink for use later.
John 2E0TWQ says, is it a can opener or a portable drink, beer, cola, beverage drink opener? Because he has something similar.
Tony M0TDK, I think this week's mystery object is a tool for opening ring pull cans, perhaps after the ring has snapped off. Alternatively, it might be part of a sewing machine for use in zero gravity.
Don't mention that word anymore. And finally, Mike M7MCO says, I believe the object in question is a device to reseal a fizzy drinks can after it has been opened. Well, they're kind of all close, aren't they? But shall we reveal what it is?
We can. It is called a canny.
There we
and
are.
It is to reseal a drink can. I've never seen one of these. I want one.
Yeah.
Can you still buy them?
Well, I don't know. I will have to ask John where he got that from.
Yeah.
But there we are. It's really nice, isn't it? It's useful. I've seen similar sort of things, but not as elegant as this one.
The coolest thing I've got, actually, I probably shouldn't say because I could put it on a...
Move on.
I'll be quiet.
Nothing to see here. All right. Okay, so there we are. Thank you very much to John G0MXN for sending us that picture of that device. We are still after some more, though, as well. Things like that are perfect, where people stand a chance of getting an idea what it is just by looking at it. So if you've got something like that, please send us a picture. Anyway, just time now to tell you what is next week's
I thought you were going to skip it.
No,
then.
I'm not going to skip it, no. Let's have a look at this. What on earth is this? Can't give any clues, really, can I? I did wonder about a certain clue, but I think
the clue is if you know, you just know.
You know, yeah, that is probably the good clue. If you know what this is.
Yep.
Am I allowed to say ouch?
No.
All right then. Have a look at that. It's a very common thing nowadays, in certain family households anyway. Let us know what that is by next Wednesday at 3 o'clock at the latest. Send your answers to radio@dcpmicro.com by 3 o'clock next Wednesday. And we will reveal all what that mystery thingy is.
Thingy. I like the word thingy.
Okay, but it's not called a thingy. Tell us what it does or what it's called. Just a quick time then to tell you what's happening this week at the club as well. This Sunday, the GB2RS News, as always, on GB3MB at 7 o'clock. On Monday at 7:30, it's the Monday Night Net on GB3MB as well. And at 8:30, the 80 metre CW Net on 3.543 megahertz. And then next Wednesday here, Narc Live, we're online again. And it's an introduction to contesting with Anthony K8ZT. He gave us a talk earlier in the year, actually. And he's coming back to talk us. Now I know we do fairly well at contesting, but this might be a good introduction for those who thought, well, I want to get in on that. So we'll look forward to seeing Anthony next Wednesday evening. And of course, we like your stories, your pictures and everything, including some of those pictures. If you've got an unusual object at home that you think people might be able to guess at home, then please send those pictures to us. Everything at all to radio@dcpmicro.com. Plus, of course, we have our club card, which we're very happy to send to anybody who is celebrating a birthday or an occasion, or just want a bit of cheering up, not feeling very well, or anything like that. Then please let us know. The address, radio@dcpmicro.com. We'll add your name to ours and we'll send it straight away. So we're now on to our main event, and I have to say that we have special thanks for our guest tonight, because he has got up at about, well, probably 4 in the morning to bring this to us, because he's coming to us live from Australia. So let's go and meet him now. It's Dr. Mike Carper, WA9PIE, who's the CEO of Ham Radio Deluxe Software. Hello, Mike.
Greetings, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you, you're still awake. I was a bit worried when we met for the first time 30 minutes or so ago. I thought that is a tall order. So it's now about 10 minutes to 5 in the morning. Is that right where you are?
That's about right. And it's still dark here. And I've never been awake at this hour before. So there's interesting things going on the airmail, but maybe I'll find something new.
Well, good. Well, I hope you managed to get a bit of sleep afterwards as well. You're coming to us from Brisbane in Australia, because it's such a massive country. You've got several different time zones. But thank you ever so much for doing this for us at this time, unsocial time in the morning. I mean, Ham Radio Deluxe is a bit of software that I think I've heard about ever since I got into the hobby, probably best part of 20 years ago now. And I think most people have heard of it. But of course, that might suggest to people it's just a bit old software. It's been around for ages. But you've been doing a lot of work updating it, haven't you?
We have, and I'm going to be able to show you a little bit of what we've done lately.
Okay, well, I'll hand it over to you, Mike. But as always, to everybody at home now, if you've got any questions or anything for Mike, then please ask them on Facebook or BATC. Also, one of Mike's technicians is also sitting on BATC actually and can help with any technical answers, but we'll read them out anyway. So if you've got anything, questions, suggestions even for software, maybe you've got a very old version, you want to know the difference or anything like that, we'll read those all to Mike at the end of his talk. But now over to Mike to learn more about Ham Radio Deluxe.
Thanks, David and Tammy. Thanks for, first of all, thanks for having me. And I really appreciate it. By the way, I'm looking back at the date and I noticed that I had the date incorrect here. So don't worry about that. But thanks for having me. And for all those of you who are our customer, thank you for your support. We've had a lot of fun over the last, well, we've been doing this for 10 years. So David mentioned he's known about Ham Radio Deluxe for 10 years. The first 10 years of the product's existence were with the original author. We acquired it from him in late 2011, started to produce our own versions of the software in 2012 after he had decided he was going to abandon the software. And we've had a lot of fun. And the fun really comes with the interaction with customers and so on. So we appreciate that. And I'll apologize in advance. I've had a bit of a sore throat lately. So hopefully I'll be able to get through this in good shape. So here's what I'm going to talk about. And I want to get to the demo as quickly as I can. I want to get to questions and answers as quickly as I can. So I'm going to go through very quickly, what is Ham Radio Deluxe? How do we sell it? Who are we? What have we been up to? Then we'll get into the demo of what we've been doing lately. But Ham Radio Deluxe, for those who don't know, is a suite of productivity applications for ham radio. It has a graphical user interface for rig control, whereas a lot of applications that do rig control generally focus on frequency, mode, and VFO. We actually program all of the on-air functions for a radio, and you can access them from a screen. Logbook is kind of our cornerstone product in the suite. They're all sold as a group, but it's probably the best and most used application that we have. It's, I think, the gold standard for logging programs in ham radio. It supports DXing and awards tracking very well as casual operating. DM780 is our digital modes application, which does everything that WSJT does not do. And if we need to, we'll get into the question about why is that, which we've been asked many times. Our rotor control application is a graphical interface for controlling rotors for azimuth or azimuth and elevation. We have a satellite tracking application which controls your radio for Doppler shift and controls the rotor so that you can work satellites. And we have an application that not too many people know about or use. It's a lesser known application called Mapper. Mapper allows you to plot certain things onto the screen. In the course of the next 6 months, Mapper will change considerably and or be replaced by a more significant and richer information based map that will have things like solar data, maybe even weather and HF propagation displayed on it and so on. So what we sell really, a lot of people, and I'll do a little bit of clarification here, but what we sell is a perpetual software license. So if you buy Ham Radio Deluxe, and these are in US dollars, if you buy Ham Radio Deluxe, you get a perpetual software license that enables you to run the software, past, present, and future versions, perpetually, forever. And along with that license comes 10 or 12 months of technical support and 12 months of added features. And at the end of that 12 months, if it does everything you need it to do, you don't need the features that we're producing and you don't need the support that we offer, you're good to stick with that. And in fact, download the latest updates because that's how you get bug fixes. But you're not obligated to pay anymore after that period of time unless you want the new features that we're delivering in the software, or if you need our tech support. I'm going to be showing one of the features today that are enabled through software maintenance and support. Again, bug fixes are available at no charge. Just keep downloading and installing new releases. And because of all this, we don't sell the software on a subscription basis. We don't have subscribers. We just have wonderful people that have chosen to take the ride in Ham Radio Deluxe with us. We call them customers. The HRD staff is small. I started this out in 2012 with 2 other partners, and one of them left at the end of 2016. I acquired the interests of the remaining member or partner about a year ago, and so I'm the last man standing. I'm presently based in Australia, although as you can tell, I've got a funny accent, so I'm an American, so happen to be living in Australia. We have 2 members of our sales staff, Lindy and Amber, who live in North Dallas. We have 3 members of our tech support team, Tim, Kevin, and Ferry, who live in Pennsylvania, Florida, and the Netherlands. Tim happens to be off at present due to a medical circumstance. We have 7 developers, Doug, Will, Sally, Jim, John, Jade, and Jose, 4 of which are full-time working on our project. It's the first time we've had full-time developers working on the project the last 10 years that we've been doing this, and it's been very productive. We have beta testers from every corner of the world, several in England, and they do a fantastic job for us. Well, with these 4 additional developers onboarded since the beginning of this year, we've been focusing a lot of time on performance and speed and really getting rid of a lot of the things that have been troubling people over the course of time. We finished off HRD Alert this year, which I'll be talking about. Some people would say, gee, was it HRD Alert that caused you to take so much time this year to do certain things? The answer is no. We had almost everything we needed to create HRD alert. All we really needed to do was duplicate the DX cluster, and instead of sending it DX spots from the DX cluster network, we sent it decodes from WSJTX. Pretty easy. But a lot of the other stuff around new work status indicators, which I'll talk about in a moment, that was new work. And meanwhile, we're also modernizing the code, eliminating unused code. Remember, as David said, this software has been around for 20 years, was originally developed to work on Windows XP. We don't see a lot of Windows XP anymore, but there's a lot of old specific code in the application that frankly needs to be removed and modernized. So we're working on that. One developer kind of, dedicated to modernizing the software. So over the course of the next year, the software will have a new look. It'll have a new ribbon that looks, like a Windows or a Microsoft Office ribbon, so to speak. What I'm showing you are mock-ups, are not mock-ups. They're real code. It's just that we're not ready to deploy it. Then if you want to have your radio, if you want to have the software look like your radio, and you'll be able to tune the radio from a screen that looks like your radio. In this particular case, you can see that we've got an ICOM 9700 here, but the other tab is showing a Yaesu FTDX 101D. So again, you'll be able to have multiple tabs across here with multiple different radios, depending on how many you have in your shack. So the modernization is something I'm really happy about, and we'll be doing that, like I said, within the next, probably be sometime after the first of the year. This is live code. It actually works. It's just that we're not ready. So HRD alert. So I'm going to do a little bit of an overview, but I want to preface it by saying it's important to understand that everything in logbook that I'm going to be talking about is based on colors. So, and a lot of it has to do with countries that I need, grids that I need, zones that I need, states that I need, and it's not US centric. It could be Australian states, could be Canadian provinces, and so on. US counties, we just added work status indicators for US counties, and I think we're the only software in ham radio that does tracking US county as a work status indicator in real time. So I'll show you that here in a moment as well. But they're color coded. If it's red, you need it, go work it. If it's yellow, you've worked it before, but you haven't confirmed it, so go work another one. If it's green, you have already confirmed one in your log, and you can pass it by. So I'll be showing this a little bit more as I go into the demo. But with regards to HRD alert, our design criteria for this really was to replicate the same kind of functionality we have in our DX cluster application or portion of logbook with operating FT8 and FT4 and so on. So in fact, I may work a little FT4. The FT8 frequency on 20 is pretty busy right now. And so, we want to be able to decode or display decodes from WSJTX or JTDX and do it in real time so that you can get real-time alerting and identification of stations that are calling you, whether they're needed, countries, zones, states, provinces, grids, counties, and prefixes, all by band or mode according to what you need. So there's no need to maintain a wanted list in HRD alert or in logbook in general. The log already knows what you need, and you can enable them. I'll show some of the filters that are new in the 6.8 versions of Ham Radio Deluxe in just a moment. You'll be able to identify, just as you do in DX cluster, whether you need them for or whether they participate in logbook or EQSL. You can initiate a response from within the HRD alert pane, and it will automatically log the QSO into your logbook. So with that, I managed to get through that in 10 minutes because that's great, because I want to spend some time DXing, which is a lot of fun for me. So I'm going to drag over WSJTX for a moment.
Just can I just ask you one question, Mike? Sorry, just might be relevant, because at this point, obviously, people may say, "Oh, I don't like this." Can we just go over a few basics? Like, it's presumably Windows only, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now it is.
And what do you need? Oh, we'll ask you about that later. What else do you need then? What version of Windows 10 or 7? Or because these are the sort of things, as hams, we're always good at reusing older computers. So I don't know if you mind just explaining that.
Yeah. We presently support Windows 7 and up.
Okay.
Our ability to support Windows 7 is on a long-term basis is probably limited, as Microsoft has abandoned it about 2 years ago. It does make it a little bit more difficult for us to support it if something goes wrong. So we generally try to stay up to date with our software is developed in Microsoft Visual Studio. It's mostly written in C++. And so to the extent that we have to continue using Microsoft's latest versions of Visual Studio, it does prevent us from carrying forward older operating systems. We couldn't support Windows XP at all, for example. But with 6.8, we initially deployed it, and people had trouble installing it on Windows 7. So we sent the developers back to sort that out, and we were able to continue supporting Windows 7. But I can't say that we'll do that forever. So
okay,
Windows, Windows 7 are better at present, all the way up to Windows 11, which is what I'm using now. It really, it'll really run on anything that the operating system is capable of using. So, for example, if you've got 16 meg of RAM and on your computer, it'll handle that just fine. It actually occupies about somewhere in the neighborhood of less than 1 gigabyte of memory when it's running. And it doesn't consume a lot of disk space. So that's rarely ever a concern. They're good?
Okay, thank you very much.
We do have, I was talking to the developer about, one of the developers yesterday about Mac and Linux. And her response to me was, once we get off of Microsoft Access, which is what we're currently working towards, we'll be able to, she says within 90 days, we can produce a version that will run on Mac and Linux. Well, I'm not guaranteeing anyone that's the case, but gosh, that would be great, because I know we have a lot of customers who use Mac and certainly Linux. And so that'd be great if we're able to offer that.
Actually, I was going to leave it till the end, but I might as well now read a question from somebody already, from Neil Bowers. Says, I much prefer Linux for day-to-day use, but have Windows for use with specific hardware devices. So will there be a cross-platform version? And you've just answered that. So thank you, Neil, and thank you, Mike.
Yeah, and the real challenge, I think, is going to be whether or not you can get Linux drivers for the hardware that you use. I don't think the problem's going to be Ham Radio Deluxe, although, we got to get to that point. But I think, having hardware drivers that will support, the latest kind of capabilities out of radios like the FTDX 101 and the FTDX 10, I think I am comfortable with Linux, but not from a GUI point of view. I'm more of a command prompt kind of guy. So I can't tell you the last time I saw a GUI on Linux.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Yep. So you can see what's going on here. I've got WSJTX up in the upper right-hand screen. It's decoding, if you think about your bandwidth for FT8, which is what we're doing now, there's really enough bandwidth for somewhere in the neighborhood of 55 decodes or signals per time slot. And you can see here, we're hitting the high 40s. We had 47 decodes in the last one. I'm just going to pin that here so it doesn't move, and then I'll get it out of the way in a moment. But you can see as the decodes are coming in, there's some things going on here. First of all, we're displaying the data that's coming in from WSJTX down here in the HRD alert window. Now it looks, the intention was that this window would look quite similar. Now I've switched over to our DX cluster. And in DX cluster, I can see data coming in from the DX cluster network. And I mentioned that the colors are red, green, and yellow. So if I'm looking under the grid column and I'm still in DX cluster over here, I can see, for example, this grid FN66. I've not worked this grid on this band or mode. So I can go and work it versus this KH67 here. I've worked it on this mode, which for that particular spot is 17 meter, that's on FT8, but I've not worked that grid on 17 meters before. Most of the countries I've got here, here's Angola. I'm looking at the band column associated with Dxcc, and I can see that Angola is one that I've worked before, but not confirmed. So I don't have a confirmation for Angola on 12 meters. If I click my work status indicator filters to on, I'm only going to see those things that I actually need to go and work. Again, I'm still in DX cluster, but it works exactly the same. If I click on options here, I'm going to pull this over a little bit to get it out of the way. I have work status indicator filters, which I have choices about what I want to see when the filters are turned on. Filters just affect what we see, alarms affect what we hear, and I've got both of them set to the same thing at the moment. I wouldn't have to. But right now I'm filtering to Dxcc countries with band. If I were interested in, let's say I were working on CQ Marathon and I want to see band and zones, I can click on, countries and zones. I can click that. And then if I refresh this, I'm going to probably get some additional ones. Well, I didn't have any additional ones. They're all countries. So I don't have any zones or CQ zones there that are new for me. But what I'm looking at here are the ones telling me that I need to go and work these. Now, over here where it says B4, it tells me that I've worked D2UY before on this particular mode, which is FT8 or digital modes on 12 meters. I've not worked TN2TC on CW on 15. That's why this is an X. So I'm going to flip over now to, I'm going to go back over to HRD alert where I could do the same thing. I'm going to look at my filters. And they work, they're tied together, by the way. So the filters you set up in, or alarms that you set up.
I should just point out, Mike, that a lot of people will be maybe able to read this, and we've got it in fairly high definition here, but people who are watching this on a smaller device like a phone or an iPad, they may not be able to read everything. So it might be worth just highlighting, you know, what they are, because I don't think we should take for granted that everybody can read everything on that screen. Just a thought.
Yeah, fair enough. So the way I got here was within the DX cluster pane or the HRD alert pane, there's a button here that says options in the middle of the screen. And I'm going to click that. Once I click that, I've got options for that particular thing. The workstation, the work status indicator filters are in this tab, and I can decide what I want to see. The workstation indicator alarms tell me what I want to hear. I'm going to turn on text to speech. So I have the ability to set alarms for things differently than filters. So I'm going to click OK here. And then when I turn on the filters, There are no D codes here that apply to the filters I set. In other words, there are no zones or countries here that are needed in my particular case. So let's change to show something else. I'm going to come over and say, I also want to see needed US counties by band. So I'm going to click on this. So now I've got all three of them selected. Now when I set the workstation indicator filter to on, it's going to show me any countries, any CQ zones, or any counties that are new, and I can see the counties over here. Now I can also see who's calling CQ. If I only want to see CQ, I can change the filter that's over here to say, hide everything else. I only want to see CQ. And at this point, as the new decodes are coming in, you notice there's not all,
cluster TN2.
So I'm paused for here for a minute.
On 20 meters.
So that was an alarm. Now I'm going to silence the alarm. But that's what happens when you have a new country show up that you need to work. It will tell you that there's a new country, and this happened to be an alert that came in from the DX cluster telling me that a country that I need is on 20 meters, and I could go and work it. Back to HRD alert. I can see that I need Bradley County, Tennessee. So I'm going to double click on this one. And when I double click on it, you immediately see up here in WSJTX, it's gone into TX mode. I got in late, so I'm going to have to wait until the next go around. But when I clicked on that, that over here in the lookup pane shows me this gentleman's name. So his name is George Melton. He lives in McDonald, Tennessee, and it shows his coordinates. If I click here, it's going to pull up Google Earth, and around the world we go. And I can jump right over and see a little bit more about what his working conditions are if I want to drill in a little bit and then let the screen catch up. I can see maybe what kind of antenna he's using. I was showing my oldest granddaughter this yesterday, and she said, "Do you think people mind that you're actually able to do that?" I said, "Well, they listed their location so everybody can go and find them. So that's the way that is." So you can see that I'm trying to work this particular gentleman. I'm going to adjust my spot in the waterfall a little bit and see if I can have a better shot at it. It's pretty busy on 20 meters right now. I may go to FT8 in a moment, but you can see that all the decodes are showing up. If I wanted to see if someone was calling me, I could change it to calling me. If I wanted to say, okay, well, show me the ones that are calling CQ and the ones that are calling me, and I'm okay to turn off the filter. So now I'm seeing all the decodes. That was a lot of fast stuff. So let me go back through that again a little bit. I have choices about what I want to see, and I enable those by going through the filters, and I can say, show me things, or alert me on things. So this is the filters that will show me things. These are the alarms that will set to what I'm going to hear. I had the text-to-speech alarms enabled, but I could enable the email alarms, and the email alarms are also useful for sending text messages to your phone. I use that quite often when I'm away from home. Now you can see this gentleman is answering me. You can see that up in WSJTX. So I'm going to change over here to CQ and calling me. And now I see he's calling me. So I'm already responding to him. And we'll see how that works out, because like I said, it's pretty busy. One moment. Yeah, still pretty busy on 20. So hopefully he'll, there we go. And then that'll pop up, and I'll be able to log him here in a moment. Meanwhile, down here, anything that says CQ in it is going to show in this. So I'm going to go over here to just calling me. If I only want to see the stations that are calling me, and I can see I've got a check station calling me next. So I'm going to hopefully get through this particular QSO and answer the check station as well. Does it look like it? Oh, there we go. So we get a pop up here, Boom. So that's our pop-up from WSGTX. I'm going to click OK. And right there at the top of my log, you can see that was just added. So this one's calling me. I'm going to click on that. And so you see I'm calling now OK4KM. And TX is enabled. It's all set to go over here. And now I've started a pileup. I've got several stations going. And I don't know, maybe they're listening to your program now because we've got someone in Scotland calling me. So let's see how we do with this pileup while I'm demonstrating a few other things. Again, you know, as we go through this, you can see as you click on these things where these people are, who they are. I want to flip back over here, and it takes me over to the Czech Republic, and we can see where they're located. Yeah, I may end up, I don't know if I'm going to be able to work this particular gentleman or not. We'll see. Minimize this. And now that I've got them all listed here, I think I will call on the Scottish station. So all I simply did, I'm working down here in HRD alert. So I responded to him. And this is a good time for me to flip back and I can show, here are the ones with CQ are calling me. They're color coded just as they are in WSJTX. So while this is going on, David, do you have any questions as I'm going through this demo?
Not particularly, but somebody, Mike G3YPP, I think you know, he's one of your beta testers, I believe. He's made a very interesting point. I think a lot of people will be fascinated, even more fascinated, that you're in Australia, but he says Mike is talking from Australia, but he's demoing using his remote station in the USA. I don't think you mentioned that before, so that was good that Mike put that on there, and remarkable, really.
Yeah, I'm actually using, I pulled it over here. I'm using a radio on Remote Ham Radio's network here. So I drag this over and you can see that. I'm getting some mixed results. I got a lot of people calling me, but I don't have a lot of people answering me at the moment. So let's hope that our friend in Scotland will respond here. Although he's off working someone else, so I'm going to go and try to work this station here in Poland.
Okay.
And again, I'm just double clicking the stuff that show up in my HRD alert screen. And I can tell whether or not I need them. So I can see over here for J093, which is I'm waving my mouse around. I've worked it on digital modes, but I haven't worked it on 20 meters. So that's what I'm showing here. When I do add them to the log, as this one hopefully will come up here in a moment, when I add them to the log, HRD logbook does the call sign lookup. Now I've got, you can see that, you know, I don't have a lot of his name information here. So I click OK. It does the lookup and there he is. All this happened very quickly. And as soon as this one's sent, I'm going to go off to the next one. I've double clicked on TA2NEH. I've worked Turkey or this grid, sorry, KN40 on digital modes before, but never on this band. So I'm going to call him. Meanwhile, I can see that he's somewhere in the neighborhood of Istanbul. I can get this moving me down, and he's on the Asia side of Istanbul. Interesting country split between, or interesting city split between two different continents there. So that's his, these are his working conditions here.
Wow, that is really, well, I know that, yeah, I'm sure you'd be the first to say, well, it's not your program giving that, but it does make it really quick and easy to sort of see, and you maybe would get an idea of what sort of antennas there were, or certainly what their local conditions are, whether they're near lots of other people or they're working, you know, very remotely in the middle of nowhere. So,
right. I mean, it's interesting to me because I go through this and I see people who are in densely populated urban areas, and I wonder how they're, you know, how they're operating right.
Yeah.
I see other people who are in very remote locations with elaborate setups. And so, and I'm going to have to, after this one, I'll call John, G3UCQ, who's one of our beta testers, and I'll get him in the log. It's funny because it must be that you have lots of listeners who are hearing me on and they're calling me. So perhaps that's how I'm getting the traffic I'm getting here.
It could be.
I may flip to FD4 here in a moment, depending on how things go here. But that's what we've been working on now. All this ties to a couple things. It ties to our awards tracking. So if you're looking at your Dxcc award, the reason why all my work status indicators here are green is because I've confirmed everything I've worked. I'm going to move this out of the way just a little bit so you can see that there's John. Thank you, John. John's been really very pivotal to some of the things we've done lately, particularly around adding the IC705 into the mix. I'm going to go ahead and start up this QSO with the Israeli station. All I did was double click on this right here, and it's going to start this up. But you can see that, my challenge count, here's something really interesting, David. When I started this year, I had worked 2019 banned countries, 2019 banned countries. With the changes that we've made with HRD logbook and the new work status indicators and the things that we've done with HRD alert, I've gone from 2019 to 2,266. So almost 250 new banned countries there.
That is a big increase. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure you're aware these digital modes, especially FT8, FT4, they are a little bit, well, what we call in this country Marmite. I don't know, Vegemite, I guess, maybe in Australia, but it's a bit black and white. Do you know what I mean? And there are some people who just don't like them. Maybe at least before you finish today, you'll be able to show us how valuable Ham Radio Deluxe can be for people who don't work those digital modes.
Yeah,
maybe,
absolutely.
We have a lot of CW enthusiasts in our class.
Yeah.
It's our class, in our club. And as well as obviously traditional modes like SSB and things. So, but I can see the power of this, Just a reminder to everybody at home now watching this, though, if you have any questions or queries or suggestions for features and things like that, Mike is here live. And do ask them away. We have actually got one question on specifics. Somebody watching on Facebook now says, I use an ICOM IC910H with HRD on Windows 7, but the control is a bit limited. Will the latest version be able to give me full control of the older IC910H? Now, I don't know if you can answer that, or maybe Ferry, your technical guy.
Yeah, I own a 910H, and I'm quite fond of it for satellite work. So yeah, absolutely. In fact, I had shipped that off to a developer a little over probably 2 years ago now, and to have him modernize our support for the IC910H. So yeah, absolutely. It's a nice radio.
So the newer version, if Mike upgrades, will support the IC910H. Okay.
Absolutely.
Another question's come in on BATC this time from Robert G4TUK. How does it work with two VFO radios like the ICOM IC7610?
You cut out a little bit there, David, but I think you're asking how does it work for multi-VFO radios?
That's right, yeah, with two VFOs or more, I guess, but like the ICOM IC7610.
Yeah, I mean, you just have the main and the sub-band VFO that you can control separately. I'm dragging I'm using a demo radio here right now because I don't have physical access to the radio. Go ahead and answer him, but I don't have physical access to the radio. But you have the ability to change VFOs by clicking on A and B. So I'm up here, and as I hover over this, you can switch between A and B as transmit or receive well, however you want to do it. But generally speaking, the Yaesu radios assume that, you know, you're always listening on the main and transmitting on the sub. Other radios, Kenwood, you could transmit on A or B, but it supports all that kind of capability.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think so. Again, a reminder to everybody at home: if you've got any queries or anything, and do put them onto BATC or Facebook, and we'll read them to Mike as soon as we get them.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the other modes, or so, you know, and our support for things like CW. So, but meanwhile, I'm going to flip over to, I'm going to stop monitoring because I'm going to change to FT4, and I'm going to retune the radio here to 14080. So if anybody's listening, they want to go over to 14080, I'm going to be sitting there for a little bit. And I'm going to clear the screen. So I'm going to erase the decodes that I've received previously in WSJTX. I'm going to leave them down here. Now you can see FT4 under the mode. If I scroll down, you would see FT8. So they're coming in a lot faster. If anybody wants to call me on FT4, I may just go ahead and do a couple of those. 1 second. Seeing all the ones I saw earlier, right? So I'm going to call somebody with a good signal report. Things, as you know, things move a lot more quickly in FT4. I'm going to work this gentleman here in Florida, K4BPT. Again, I like to go see where he's at, someplace in Florida. Flip over there. He's in the area we call the Florida Panhandle. And meanwhile, he's responded to me, so we'll be putting him in the log in a moment. There we go. Right. So easy. Another thing I guess I'll point out before I go looking at other things is that, let's say I single click on one of these. Well, here's somebody calling me now, so I'll answer him. As I clicked here, I mentioned the information showing up over here about the lookup pane. If I know nothing whatsoever about England and I click on the word England here, it will bring up the Wikipedia page for England. If it's particularly good for, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, particularly good for students who are learning about world geography and they want to learn about, you know, places that they're hearing on the air. I used to be fascinated with that stuff when I was a kid, and so that'll help you see those kinds of things. Looks like I've got a small pileup now on FT8. I'm going to answer a few of these, and then I'm going to pop over. How much time do we have, David?
That's okay. No, fine. I mean, I think people would like to see, and maybe as you're doing it, you can explain. Maybe move your mouse a little bit slower, bearing in mind some people are not going to see this in the quality that you can, and just sort of show them how easy it is.
Yeah, I mean, and how easy, which part? I mean, all I'm doing here is, it's interesting because basically this, for those that don't like FT modes, I understand your point of view. I mean, what we're doing right now, this is, you know, the face of DXing in the modern world. We don't talk to each other. We just send packets back and forth or data streams back and forth. And it becomes a little bit impersonal, I think. So, you know, the ability to go back, and here I've got one of my beta testers. I'm going to answer him as well. He's in Texas. So, Greg, if you're listening, thanks for listening, and we'll get you in the log on FT8 as well. By the way, as these come into the log, over here in the B4 column, you'll see that they automatically change. So, you know, they're going from red X's, meaning I haven't worked them before, to the yellow yield signs, meaning that I have worked them, but I've not confirmed them. And eventually, if I confirmed them, that it would turn green. And so here, as you can see, down here where N5IF is, I'm going to click OK and put it in the log. Automatically, all of these get updated. So that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna flip over for a moment. So I still have people calling me. I'm gonna try to respond there. Back to the DX cluster. If I'm not particularly interested in FT modes, let's say, I can still filter this down to show me, for example, if I only want to see CW, I can click CW in the filter for the DX cluster. If I'm working someone, I'm not going to do it now because I'm in the middle of the WSJTX operations here. But if I, for example, double clicked on this station here, PP6CC, it would retune the radio to 210171. And it would automatically put me right where I need to be in order to have that CW conversation with someone. If, for example, I'm tuning around and I've tuned to a spot where, you know, you are David, or what's your call sign, David?
Golf 7 Uniform Romeo Papa.
Again?
G7 URP.
Okay. So great. So
I'm a bit busy at the moment, though. You won't be working me at the moment, that's for sure.
No, not at the moment. Not at the moment. But what I can see is that it automatically did a lookup for you, and I could put you in the log. I mean, if we would be working, let's just say phone, because you're 5'9" for me here right now, bud, and hopefully I'm 5'9" for you as well. Mm. But the mode would come up automatically. I'm tracking it right now to the radio, but I could just as well be on upper sideband or lower sideband, or, you know, maybe we're working FM through a satellite or something of that nature. So this is how I would go and progress with a phone contact like that. Okay. If I were going to, you know, let's see what I've done on phone for Dxcc, for example. I've worked 299 countries. I've confirmed 292. Here are the ones I've confirmed. I can go back to say, okay, well, I've worked 7 that I haven't gotten QSL cards for. So here are the 7 that I've worked. And if I want to see that list, I can show that list. I'm going to drag this out of the way long enough to see that some of them are fairly recent. One of them goes back to 1988. I'm probably not going to confirm that one. So, which is why I need to continue working TUs and get them in the log on phone. If anybody happens to be working phone anymore, you know, please call me on phone. But this is how I would do my awards tracking. I can support, you know, mixed CW, phone, digital. I got my Worked States Award. I'm tinkering with a CQ marathon tracking thing today. So I've got only the countries up here. I'll get the zones up here before long. Thus far this year, I'm at 201 countries. I've worked all the zones. So any other awards that I would be interested in, for example, here's the Worked All Zones Award. You know, I go down to 5-band Worked All Zones down at the bottom and see where I'm at with that. Pretty helpful. Another thing we've done recently, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm going to bring my DXing to an end here as soon as I make sure I've answered anybody back that I want to answer. And so if you haven't worked me yet, maybe I'll stick around after the show and work some more DX. So thanks for that. Can I just
check, you are using your US call sign WA9PIE, yeah?
That's right.
Okay, yeah. Just wanted to check. I know you've got a different call for Australia, but you're...
I do. When I'm in Australia, I'm VK4EIE. Mm-hmm. And, but no, not at the moment, since I'm literally operating out of the US.
Yeah.
So one of the things we've done recently, you know, there are people who would say, and I'm one of them, by the way, people who would say, well, I haven't used label printing in HRD for a long time because it was terrible. And it was terrible. But But today, over the work that we've done thus far this year, it's really quite excellent. If I click on, I could right click, come down to print labels. And it's going to show me, these are address labels here. But let's say, for example, that I want to see QSL labels. That's pretty busy. I need to change the font down to something that will fit on the label. I'm going to magnify it a little bit so people can actually see it. But what you see is actually what prints. And it's pretty cool. If I'm using one of those single label printers like the QL700, again, I have to fit everything in the label, but it gives me the ability to change things around. I actually have larger labels in place too. So, and if I want to print them one off, pretty cool. In fact, let me do that just for fun.
So whether you've got one of these small single ones like the Brothers or the Dymos, you mean, or if you want to print a whole sheet of like Avery format labels, it'll do that. Right.
You could do either. And I initially, when I was doing this just moments ago, I put up the full sheet label, but I'm going to actually print on a Brother label printer here. Here's my friend John in Cornwall. And here's the label. I'm going to maximize a little bit so you can see this label, but it's all good to go. So all I'm going to do is print, and you can hear the label printing right now. I'm going to hold it up to the screen, and maybe you can see it. It's a little bit hard just the way that the camera is getting blurry, but that's how easy it is. Now, the nice thing about it is there's a button down here that some of you maybe can see that says skip print preview when clicking print labels button. So I checked that. So now I've got G3PXT up here, and I'm going to print a label for that one. So now all I'm going to do
He's well known to us, by the way, Mike. He is from our part of the country, so.
Very good.
Norfolk.
So I'll send him a card through the bureau, and all I'm going to do is click this label button. And without the print preview, you can probably hear it printing again. I've got my label for your mate Gordon here, and I'll get that out in the bureau soon. So that was one of the changes that we made. I actually think it's completely brilliant. It works better than it ever has, and I'm really proud of what we've done with label printing. So that's included, in Ham Radio Deluxe. If you've ever purchased Ham Radio Deluxe from us before, go and download the most recent version from our website. I'm trying to answer G3YPP because Mike's another one. You probably know Mike as well. He's one of our beta testers.
He's also from this county in the UK. Makes Norfolk feel like a really big place suddenly, doesn't it? it's not.
So hopefully we'll get him in the log. So let's see, what else is that? Those are the newest developments in Logbook this year that we've been working on. So a lot of exciting stuff. What I can talk a little bit about while this is happening, I can talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
I mentioned something about Mapper. So if you're familiar with some of the mapping displays that show you rich content about things like solar weather, being able to plot your QSOs on the map, which you can already do with Mapper today. And maybe I'll put that up and we can show a little bit. Click on that, and I'll move it over into the screen. So this is a display of my log for the year 2022 with only my 6 meter QSOs in it. So we can see the 6 meter QSOs there on this screen. But the goal is to be able to take this screen and put other rich information on there like solar weather, plot your D codes or plot the DX spots in real time. Do a lot of the things that you might see in Grid Tracker or the always Geochron. There's a couple other softwares that do something similar, but we've got this mapping space and we're going to do something with it. We're also working on we'll be working on a contesting application. Today we have just this very rudimentary contesting function that really doesn't, in my opinion, it's not really a contesting function. It doesn't keep track of your score. It does allow you to enter the exchange, but we'll be putting in an honest to goodness contesting application. We've got work going on to add new radios. We've got work going on to add new capabilities with improving the PAN adapter that we've got, as well as our integration with things like SDR Play, LP PAN, things that the Flex can do out of the box. So it's fun for me now that I've got 4 full-time developers that I can give work to, because I'm not a developer. So because of that, I have to rely on people that actually know what they're doing. So
yeah, I've got a couple of questions for you, Mike. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for. I mean, I must say as well, and I'm no affiliation, as you know. We've never met before, etc. And I might have a very, very old copy of Hammer Deluxe from a long time ago, but other than that, I haven't looked at this for some time. But clearly, you're very passionate about this, and it is driven from the top, as it were. You own the company. You employ a lot of people doing software, and obviously, it's something that you presumably a lot of the new ideas for new features and things come from you.
They do. I've got features that I've wanted to add to this since 2012 and haven't been able to get them all in. For example, one of the things that we can do now that we have the label printing application in, which, by the way, the label printing application is an external third-party library that we've added, which allows us to not only do the label printing, but it allows us to do a word application printing. So if you had a template that had, here's your award application, here's where you put your call and your address and your name, and here's your sheet that you submit that has all the QSOs on it and so on. We're able to actually populate and print those now, which we've never been able to do, but that's been on my list for quite some time. But, there was a commercial here in the US when I was a kid where this guy said, there was a commercial on TV and the guy said, it was Hair Club for Men. And he said, I like the product so much, I bought the company. Well, I did like this. And I bought the intellectual property in 2011 with 2 other partners. And I love this. I mean, we do probably, absent COVID, we do probably 6 Hamfests in the US each year. We'd like to come to Europe. I get people coming up to me saying, hey, we're big Ham Radio Deluxe fans. Thank you for doing this. And I can't even operate without Ham Radio Deluxe anymore. So that's great. I mean, we love that kind of feedback. I mean, I've got a thick skin too. I'm also taking a lot of, feedback from people that aren't particularly happy, and I'm happy to understand what their concerns are and work through those things with them. So
some of the ideas, I guess the ideas, a lot of them come from you because you're clearly an active user, daily user of the software yourself, but also you do listen to other people, their comments, suggestions, criticisms, and act on some of them at least.
Right, by far and away. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen if that's okay, David. We can just have a face-to-face conversation.
We have got you actually full screen now, so don't worry about that. You don't need to stop doing that. Right. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that's really important, if we're not doing something that people find useful, then I'm completely wasting my time. The majority of, almost all the money that comes out of the sales of Ham Radio Deluxe goes back into development and support of the product, really does. And so I've been under pressure for years to raise the price of the product, and we may have to do that next year. But for right now, we're really just solely focused on listening to customers, putting the things in that they want in. There's really, the customers come in really kind of two buckets, really. There's one bucket of customers that will tell me, well, it does everything I want it to do. You don't need to add any more features, but I wish you'd fix this thing that I've been looking forward to getting fixed. There are other people who say, yeah, why are you working on these new features? Because you haven't fixed this thing. So we're doing both, frankly. Probably 80% of the content in the releases is content that customers have asked us to fix or tweak. We've got significantly fewer software defects than we've ever had, but we're still happy to fix the things that don't work the way folks want them to. People have asked us to add certain things, which we do. So I look at this stuff myself and I try to figure out, you know, what are the things that kind of fit the majority. I do have people that contact me and say, can you add support for this radio that nobody but me is using? That's a hard one. But one of the things we are doing fairly soon, we have developers working on right now, is something that I call a rig builder application, which will enable us to provide support for new radios very quickly. And then the radio files will actually be parameters that sit outside of code. Today, it's all very hard coded, which makes it a little bit difficult.
So you have to do a whole new build of the software, I guess, to integrate that. If someone brings
I mean, if we today, right, if we need to deploy a new radio, we're basically coding it and releasing a version that supports the radio. In the future, we'll just publish these files and you just be able to download them or import them into Ham Radio Deluxe and you won't have to wait for a release. Sooner or later, when we get good at that, folks will be able to create their own radios, and that'll be fun for us. But initially, we'll use it to create the files that people need to support these new radios they're buying.
Okay, great. Thank you. I've got a question for you, by the way, if I may, from Andy M0NKR. He says, how does it update log of the world, LOTW matches, log of the world?
Yeah, good question, because I need to do that. I'm going to drag this out of the way. I've displayed the columns here of logbook of the world sent and received.
Okay, we just
also got the sent
to that. Sorry, Mike, we're just going to switch that screen.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, we've got it now.
Right. So over here in my display, I'm trying to wave my mouse around. I'm seeing logbook of the world sent, received columns. I added that and sent date. I don't really need sent date. I'm going to take that out. And if I do, I click on the layout button, which I'm highlighting here, which takes me here. I'm going to take that sent button and I'm going to move it off the display. Now I'm only seeing, and I'm going to hit this button here, which will adjust automatically the width of the columns. So I can see under logbook of the world sent, it's set to no for a number of them here. So I'm just going to highlight them using the typical Windows select method. So I clicked on one, I went down to the last one, held down the shift key, clicked on the other one, and now I'm going to click on upload. You have to have TQSL installed on your computer, and when you do, you have to tell it where it's located, right there. And then I'm going to click upload. It's going to upload those QSOs. And when it's finished, we'll see that it's changed all of those to yes. So that's how you do logbook of the world. Now, folks have said, well, gosh, Mike, why don't you make that automatic? I just want to, have these things get uploaded automatically. I don't want to have to do what you just showed me how to do. And in that particular case, it's pretty easy. You notice that as I just added a new QSO in here, and going up to EQSL is automatic. I've set that to automatic. But we will be turning on the capability to click the logbook of the world upload button, and it will automatically select the ones that are not uploaded. So that's something that I'm hoping we'll get done before the end of the year. That's how that's done. And then if I want to go and let's say look at my where's my logbook of the world account here. I've got that up. I'm going to click on this button down here that says most recent QSLs. Now I'm going to notice that this stuff is going to change because I've worked a bunch of people and they've likely uploaded them. And look, I've got a new confirmation for 40 meters here. So I want to get that into my log. This is Liberia. I worked them yesterday, I think. So I want to download, but before I do that, I'll come over to my Dxcc Awards, and that was a 40-meter QSO. So I've worked 11 on 40 meters that I haven't confirmed yet. I double-clicked on that, and I see this station in Liberia. Great. So that's 11. So I'm going to back over that I need. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to download my logbook of the world confirmations. And when I do that, we're likely going to see a bunch of these turn to verified over here as they go into the log. A few of them did. These are more recent. Now, if I come over here to awards tracking and hit refresh, what I'm going to see is this 11 will go to 10. This will go to 261 confirmed. And then down here, I'll show 2,155 Dxcc band countries confirmed. So refresh. Here's 10, 61, 255. And if I went over to my logbook of the world account here and clicked on awards, went to my Dxcc Awards, this is going to track identically to what I've got. I just find it hard to get it on the screen, but you know, I can see I've got 200 or 335 granted, 310 granted for CW, 292, and so on. So the only differences here are I've got 33 confirmations waiting for me in Logbook of the World that I haven't applied. I'm showing 33 here, and the difference is I've got 2 cards that aren't showing up in Logbook of the World. So I need to take those cards to a card checker to get those caught up. So that's how all that works.
Okay, that's really good. Thank you very much, Mike. I've got a couple of other questions for you. Simon M0SIH says, great product. I've been using HRD for the last 3 weeks. When are you going to build in automatic software update? Or, sorry, when are you going to build in automatic updates into the software? That's Simon M0SIH.
Yeah, he must have been in my house last night, listening to my conversation with my wife. The developer's working on that right now, and we put in the plumbing necessary to make that happen. What you'll see is above this, up here where I've got the help button, there's to the right of the help button, there'll be something that pops there that shows you that there's been an update. And initially when it sees that update, it'll pop it up on the screen and say, there's an update. Do you want to get the update? You can click yes, no, ignore, remind me later, and that kind of thing probably. But if you do remind me later, it'll still remain up here to the right of the help button. And I've got a screen mock-up that I could probably show of that, but that's coming within the next few weeks.
Good.
I've been after that for quite some time now, so I'm glad that we've actually got that coming.
Okay, thank you. Another comment for you from G3XLG Ray says, great presentation. Can Mike expand a bit on his plans for contesting software?
I can a bit. Some of what I know about this is confidential, so there's certain things that I can't say, because what we're going to be doing with our contest application is we're going to be working with another software maker that already has a product on the market. And we're going to be essentially licensing or incorporating their contest logic into Ham Radio Deluxe. So for that reason, it'll actually be sold as an add-on because I've got to pay royalties, or I'll be paying royalties to the original authors of that software. But the plan is to use established, well-established contest code within our application. So you won't have to install somebody else's contest application. It'll be native within Ham Radio Deluxe, but it'll actually be using logic that was created elsewhere. So the nice thing about that is that someone told me that they said, well, you know, Mike, if you try to go into this contest area, it's going to be really tough because this is a really mature market. It's got a lot of heavy hitters in it. And yeah, that's true. However, we don't want to develop it from scratch, and we're not going to have to, I don't think so. If it goes the way I think it's going to go, we're going to be in good shape there.
So be kind of beg your pardon. So kind of integrate this existing piece of software that's already out there with yours to make it, I mean, because that's what you've clearly done with Ham Radio Deluxe. You've tried to make a, dare I say, a piece of software that does everything for you. Yeah, I mean, it's intended to be the Swiss Army knife for ham radio, but yeah, I want to change the wording a little bit. It's not meant to be an integration. We're actually going to take their code and put it inside Ham Radio Deluxe, so it will work natively within Ham Radio Deluxe. And as the contest logic gets updated by the original manufacturer or the original maker, we'll pull it down when we build our software and or have a way to automatically update the contest rules. And you won't have to go chasing it. You won't have anything else to install. You'll just bring up the contest application and it'll work. Okay, sounds good. Got one more question for you so far at the moment. Anyway, this is from Andy M0NKR. How does he fare against free logbooks like Logger 32? And what would be the main reason that you'd give to move to Ham Radio Deluxe? Well, I'm not necessarily trying to put Logger 32 or anybody else out of business. Excuse me, like I mentioned earlier, a little bit of a sore throat. But so, I mean, if people use Ham Radio Deluxe, you know, I'm thrilled. If they want to use something else, that's fine. I'm just trying to create the most useful product that I can. And you know, what we're looking at, I mean, take Logger 32, for example. Like Logger 32 and DX4Win, I convert people off of those logging programs all the time. And I think Logger 32 has done a pretty good job of keeping up with the changes in the hobby. Other ones not so much. So, but one of the things, for example, that Logger 32 does that I really like that we'll be doing is when I bring up a window and I'm going to log this, we're going to see a picture up here of. Okay, we're just going to switch to your program then, Mike. That's it. Yeah, sorry. That's okay. Yeah, sorry. I'll give you a fair warning. Well, one of the things that we're going to be doing that people who are coming off of Logger 32 have asked for is we want to see that QRZ photo up here when we log new stations. So as far as I can tell, that's the only difference. I mean, our program does so much more than all the other logging programs do that, you know, I'm not really trying to keep up much with others. So it's, you know, the integration to other products is great, but we're trying to build out as much of it native to logbook as we can. We want to get to the point where if you're using our product, you shouldn't have to go and install a whole bunch of other products and try to get them cobbled together. Which if you were using, you know, logging program X and digital modes program Y and rotor program Z, you've got to figure out how to get all that stuff working. And if you have trouble, you kind of, you know, have nowhere to turn except maybe go to social media. But we've got people like Ferry, who's on this call, and others who are willing to help you. Yeah, paid to help you, actually. Absolutely. We're going to let you have some coffee or something very shortly now. We're just coming to the end now. But a couple of things for you. Firstly, just Robert G4TK says, can you change the size of F5 call input window? So that's a request, I guess. Change the size of what? F5 call input window. F5, Foxtrot 5. I don't know what that means, I'm afraid. Or is it FS? I think it's F5, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I will get him
ask him to contact me. Ask him to contact me directly, and I'm happy to.
I will do that for you, Robert. So just contact me, and I'll let you have Mike's email address to get that sorted. And Andy M0KNKR said my QSO is verified, so I guess he's one of those ones who's been on your list tonight, and you've had a QSO.
Excellent.
Well, really are multitasking. You're giving men a good reputation here, dare I say, sitting next to my wife. And finally, I will leave it, excuse me, at this, because this is an unsolicited email that I got a few days ago from somebody actually you've already mentioned tonight. And this is from someone who's well known, at least to Narc members, Gordon G3PXT, who says, I run Ham Radio Deluxe at home. The last time I raised a ticket, I had an answer to the problem within half an hour, and it was solved. A very good piece of software, which is very well supported. It runs my log of the world, club log, EQSL, HRD log. Please pass on my best 7.3s. That's from Gordon G3PXT.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we get a lot of great feedback about our support. I mean, and I want to say it's 98% positive. And I don't want to say that we don't get any negative, because there are certain cases where we've upset someone and we're trying to work through it. That does happen, but it's 98% positive. And people write to me all the time and say, hey, I worked with Ferry or Kevin or Tim or whoever it was. They want to tell me what a great time they had with those guys and how helpful they were. Frankly, most of the time, the problem they're having is not with our software. It's with the integration, other settings and other software, WSJTX and all that, TQSL, Logbook of the World. But we're helping people get the best out of our product, and that's what we care about.
Thank you, Mike. Well, as I said, that was an independent customer, and not a subscriber, as you said, who used it. Can we just quickly run through again? I know this isn't a commercial or an advert, and you wouldn't want it like that, but can we just run through those the prices and things like that again? And so, yeah, if I could start with someone who
screen.
Yeah, we can
put my screen back up.
We can put that screen up. One question in particular is just, so if someone has got an older copy of Ham Radio Deluxe, say it is 10, 15 years old, have they got any upgrade discount for this?
If they have, if they've been one of our customers since we started selling it in 2012, then, and we can find their purchase or whatever,
okay.
Then they don't have to buy the software again. They do need, we went to a new key activation system in mid-2019. All the keys were replaced. We emailed keys to customers. Probably 5% of the customers had email addresses that failed. But if they didn't get the key, they can contact us and we'll look up their key. If we can find their key, we'll give them a new key and they can immediately go and download and install the software.
So that would be, that would be your $50 approximately if they've got a version since 2012. Right. Okay, and they can prove that they purchased it. Okay.
Yeah, and frankly, there are coupon codes out there all over the place, including this one, which I'm offering up for you guys today.
Okay.
You can see the coupon code on the screen. It's NARC22, which gets you 30% off your purchase 2 weeks from the date of this particular broadcast. So for the next 2 weeks, and we're at, what do you have over there?
It actually says, I don't want to argue it. It's just that it does say offer good for 30 days, what I can see on there.
Oh, that's true.
I'm just saying. So others may see that.
By golly, I'll make it good for 30 days then. Thanks for the correction. I have to go. Normally we do 2 weeks on this, but so that'll be for the entire month of September, basically, right?
Yeah, that's lovely.
So if you go and use that coupon code at checkout, you'll get 30% off your purchase.
And whether that's the new
and
full
that's good
version
for
or
the purchase.
renewal. Okay.
For either, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
By the way, I should mention a couple other things. If you we have customers, I'm going to go back to the screen where our prices are, so stick with me for a moment. There is one offer that we have here that's not on here. For customers that like to renew annually, we have a 40% discount that we offer to those customers. So basically, it's an automatic debit that's annually for $29.97, And if you're interested in that one at a 40% discount on the software maintenance and support, you can contact us directly and we'll set you up with that. We also have the ability to purchase Ham Radio Deluxe for a friend. And you can go onto our website and there's an option there to purchase it for a friend. And if you do that, you can also use that coupon code that I showed you earlier. And in your receipt, you will get an activation code that you can share with your friend and they can download and activate Ham Radio Deluxe as well.
Well, that sounds really good to me. I think in this day and age where subscriptions are normally quite a lot more than that, you know, to pay that as a one-off fee, as you say, $100 if you're just starting afresh, or maybe a bit less if you've already had a version in the last 10 years or so. It's really good. But most importantly, you've come and shared your whole software package and how you develop things. It's certainly moved on an awful lot since I last looked at it. I'll certainly look at it again, and I'm sure many others will as well. And we wish you well with Ham Radio Deluxe and look forward to all the new features that you'll be bringing out. And once again, thank you ever so much for getting up so early in the morning to do this presentation. You've done really well, and we'd like to thank you again for joining us tonight, Mike.
Thanks for having us, David. The sun's up here on the east coast of Australia, and we're starting the day now.
All right, I will just go back on one little thing. Well, we did have a comment. It wasn't really a question, but it was from one of our US members, N0DLB G0POH, Don, and he just said this: so I'm in Indianapolis in Indiana watching a presentation from Norfolk Amateur Radio Club from a guy with a Texas address but is really in Oz and has a Midwest US accent. So there we are. We've been truly cosmopolitan.
Actually, I grew up in Indianapolis, or just east of Indianapolis, in a town called Greenfield, Indiana, which is 20 minutes from Indianapolis, and I worked in Indianapolis for quite some time. I have degrees from 3 different universities in the state of Indiana, so good day to you, mate.
There we are. And what better could we end on than that? Thank you very much. Truly cosmopolitan program. Thank you ever so much again, Mike, and all the best to you and all of your colleagues at Ham Radio Deluxe.
Thanks. Cheers.
Cheers. There we are. There we are. That was really good. And a good bit of software as well. Looks like it can do almost everything for you as well. And contesting things just around the corner. Maybe Macs and Linux. So something for everybody. Thanks again to Mike, WA9PIE, for this presentation tonight. And that's about it for Narc Live for this week. Just to let you know, remind you again what's coming on this week at Narc. We've got SSB Field Day, of course, this weekend. If you'd like to pop along and see us, bring a chair, bring some refreshments. We'd love to see you. Or help on Friday afternoon, or join us on Saturday or Sunday. This Sunday, we've got the GB2RS News on GB3MB at 7 o'clock. 7:30 on Monday night, GB3MB again for our Monday night net. And at 8:30, the 80-metre CW net on 3.543 megahertz. And then next Wednesday here on Narc Live, the 7th of September, we're online again, of course, for the introduction to contesting with Anthony K8ZT. And don't forget to keep sending those stories in, your entries to the competition and everything else, so that we can share them with other club members. It's been really good to see you tonight. Thank you and goodbye from Tammy M0TC.
Bye-bye.
And from me, David G7URP. Take care. Look after each other. Bye-bye.